Thank you so much to voters who have passed previous bond measures. It is because of you that we've been able to put public dollars to work in our schools. And there's some big numbers you'll see on the screen here. This is over decades of asking our voters to invest in our schools. Over $24 billion have been invested. And even just since I got on the board, $3.5 billion have been invested. That was back in November of 2020. We've got 640 projects in pre-construction, meaning they're getting ready for breaking ground, and then 240 projects under construction. And so you can see we have done a lot, we are currently doing a lot, and you will hear we still need more. And I will pause and turn it to our Chief Facilities Executive to share a little bit about exactly what more we need in the district. So Christina, we'll turn to the next slide too.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. As you know, LAUSD is quite large. We have approximately 1,000 schools, and we have a lot of need for facilities upgrades throughout our district. We have a very data-rich set of information about all of our building components. So if you look at the note that just says 80 billion in unfunded school facilities needs, that's really looking at all of our major building systems and seeing which ones are at the end of their kind of useful life and need to be replaced. This is everything from air conditioning systems to roof to paving. We do not get money, unfortunately, from the state to replace and build new. We get barely enough money to repair our systems. So we have decades of built up need to continue to make sure that our facilities and the systems in those facilities provide safe and good learning environments for our students and staff. And every year, those systems get older, kind of like us, and need some well attending to. Next slide. So just to talk a little bit of like an example of that, for those of you who experienced the heat waves that we had both last week and the week before, even though everyone assumes that typically the BD7 district is cooler than, let's say, the Valley. We see that, especially with climate change, that there's no area of the city that's immune to rising temperatures. Our air conditioning systems, a lot of them are old and antiquated. We do what we can to repair them and keep them going. But we did have to place portable air conditionings at many of our classrooms where we had systems that could not keep up as the days went on. We also know that we live in an area prone to seismic activity, as we saw at the first day of school and in other events. We have 525 school buildings that have been identified as needing further assessment. And so we know that we also need to do that assessment, and where needed, we'll need to upgrade and or replace buildings as well. So that's just a little bit of the reality that we face for our facilities needs. With every bond measure that we've passed, we've made incremental progress, and we're doing great work to make conditions better, but we know that we have decades of need, and we need to continue to make repairs, replacements, and improvements.
Thanks, Christina. And I should have said, if folks have questions, we invite them in the chat, and kind of after each section, we'll answer some of the questions or comments from the group. So speaking of needs, I think there's one last slide that expresses a big board priority, and this is because we've heard it from constituents, is greening. We have 475 school sites that need to be upgraded to meet our big threshold, which the board passed a resolution a couple years ago that 30% of our campuses should be green space. We've got a long ways to go to get there. And we also know that it's so hot when kids are playing outside, we need shade structures, and we're in need of about 1,000 of those across the entire district. And so we've heard from community, we need to adjust to climate change. It's not just upgrading facilities to where they should be inside, but also outside as well for our learners. And I just want to share a couple of really exciting projects in Board District 7, thanks to Christina's giant facilities team. We've got a few, we've got more than a few. We've got dozens of projects going on, but some really exciting ones I'll share here. McKinley Elementary School was a $90 million project, almost completed. You'll see some amazing new classrooms there we'll show you. Let's see, Amestoy, the classroom replacement, again, a whole new building, 92nd Street Elementary School. And then the biggest one right now is our San Pedro High School $260 million project. So sometimes it's a small couple $1,000 play structure that we invest in, and sometimes it's a $250 million complete school renovation. So let's look at some cool pictures just because I think it gets us excited. This is McKinley. You can see that just the hallway where kids are walking and the classrooms where they're learning together. Modern, airy, very bright, again, because bond dollars allowed us to upgrade the buildings there. And we're just going to go through these kind of fast. Amestoy, similarly, very beautiful, great branding on the outside, looks like a college. I love the group seating, how light and bright it is. And it just feels really modern to be on the campus now. And then one fun kind of specific, a lot of our classrooms at the high school level need specialization. So whether it's the digital production room or the music room or the chemistry labs, those are all great, but we're going to share a quick video of the culinary arts upgrades, which is kind of like a community college class. You can see there's a demonstration cooking site and then there's a classroom, and we're going to play just a few seconds. You can see what it looks like at San Pedro High School.
And helps us remember the types of people who are most at risk for foodborne illness or injury. Finally, we listed some foods that require extra caution due.
I think Charnel on my team took that video. It's not professionally done by any means, but perfectly shows us kids learning and being able to do the hands-on in the same room. We've also invested a lot in wellness centers, particularly since the pandemic. Mental health has been a huge need for our students and families. And here's some photos of the Wilmington Wellness Center. And you can see some of the other projects that are in development and design here in District 7. 49th Street is getting a major modernization at $90 million. Gardena is getting a whole new athletic facility at $22 million. Carson Elementary is getting a playground upgrades at $10 million. So we've got a variety of projects happening across the district from previous bond measures. And so again, thanks for that. And we're hopeful that we will get to see some more soon. At least I'm hopeful. I think we're going to skip the next video just because it's kind of a longer video, but I do want to show some of the greening projects because a lot of folks have been asking for cooler temperatures. Yeah, we'll skip this one. And you can see just a giant list of our schools that are getting these greening upgrades here and how beautiful and natural they look, how nice it is to replace asphalt with trees and grass and shade for kids to play in. And we'll do one more slide that I think has a couple more projects, mostly at our early education centers, which are our 2 through 4-year-olds. We are enrolling everywhere from 2 years old to adult school. I should also make that plug, and just really beautiful spaces for our youngest learners all the way through. So thank you for our past measures. And now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to share a little bit about what is on the ballot. The big one is the bond, and then I'll spend a little bit of time on one other small item. So she'll give you the lowdown on Measure US. Amanda.
Thank you, Board Member Ortiz Franklin. Appreciate your time inviting me and everybody here. I will try to go fast, but not too fast. So Measure US is a $9 million school upgrades and safety measure on the November 5th ballot. Was placed, let's go to the next slide. It was placed on the ballot by our board unanimously in August to improve school safety, update, and right size our facilities. Go to the next slide. I'm sorry about that. Can we hit the next slide, ladies? Thank you. Improve school safety, update and right size our aging and deteriorating school facilities, complete essential upgrades to our school buildings and grounds. That's our HVAC systems, plumbing, piping, roofing, paving, all of those types of things. Enhance accessibility, enhance and expand outdoor spaces and food services for students, update learning technology and infrastructure. As the board member showed, there are a number of schools that we are updating and modernizing, but only a number of those have been updated, and we want to continue that work to address those facilities inequities and then promote efficiency in the way that we are designing and constructing our new school buildings or replacement buildings, as well as purchasing electric school buses and the infrastructure to support those. It does take 55% of votes cast for the measure to pass. Next slide, there we go. So a school bond measure is, if it's passed, the way that we finance that is through property taxes. So those folks are within LA unified boundaries. If they own property, it is a tax on those properties to fund the bond measure itself. Based on our estimates, it would be 2.5 cents per $100 of assessed, not market property value. And we would be issuing those bonds over a 10 to 12-year period, and they are 25-year bonds. So each time you issue a bond, it is 25 years to be paid back. For a single family residence within LAUSD boundaries, that median assessed value is $444,269, thanks to our friends at the assessor's office who gives us that information. And so that would be about $111 a year, or $9.25 per month, to fund $9 billion worth of work at our school facilities. Measure US, just like any other bond measure, is subject to strict independent oversight and accountability requirements. The school district actually has a bond oversight committee in place now. We established one in 1997 before we were required to by law, and that committee still serves us today. All bond expenditures would be reviewed by that oversight committee in a public meeting before they are authorized to be spent on a project. The oversight committee makes a recommendation to our Board of Education. They consider that recommendation before they vote to approve a project or not. By law, all expenditures are also subject to an annual independent financial audit and performance audit. Things to know about bonds is they cannot be used for administrator salaries or operating expenses. So I know that there are a lot of needs in this district. We can talk about cleaning campuses, we can talk about teachers, we can talk about staff, we can talk about all kinds of things. Those things, unfortunately, cannot be funded with bond proceeds. These are for capital expenditure. So they are improvements to buildings, replacement of buildings, infrastructure and such. And then all bond projects and contracts may be subject to review or audit by our Office of the Inspector General. That Office of the Inspector General reports directly to the board. We also wanted to mention that there is a state Proposition 2 on the ballot. This is a state bond that is for $10 billion to build new or renovate existing public school and community college facilities. You ask, a state bond and a local bond, why do you need both? So one, as was mentioned earlier, we do have $80 billion worth of unfunded needs. That is significant for the school district. We anticipate that should Prop 2 pass, that LA Unified would receive $600 to $700 million. That is important. Every dollar that we get makes progress in our facilities and improving them, but $600, $700 million would not be, it would leave us woefully unfunded compared to what we hope the $9 billion would bring. And that $9 billion is still also just a scratch in what we have to address. And the state school bond does require local matching funds as well. So just in summary, we do have $80 billion of unfunded needs. Measure US would provide funding to upgrade our aging and deteriorating schools to continue the work that we have been doing over the past several years, continuing to do that work that we have had in place for the last 20 years. There is a cost, as I had mentioned before, 2.5 cents per $100 of assessed not market property value. And I think that was all I tried to do, highlighting and quickly in the interest of time, but we can answer any questions y'all may have.
That was amazing, Amanda.
Thank you.
This is Measure LL. It's early on your ballot, and it's about redistricting. So every 10 years, we complete a census across the entire country, and every jurisdiction can get redistricted, where the lines can be drawn differently. And so currently, for LAUSD, there are 7 board districts, and the lines are drawn by a commission, a 14-member commission that is appointed by board members, by LA City Council president, and the mayor of the city. There's different numbers by each kind of group. So there have been some concerns that those elected are the ones that are appointing the commissioners. And so very similar to the city council measure, there's another one for the city. There is an ask, and I will tell you, I also personally am supportive of this, and I wrote in a letter to support when this was being contemplated. To have an independent commission. So board members would no longer appoint, the city council president would no longer appoint, the mayor would no longer appoint. It would still be a 14-member commission, but there would be an independent process for people to apply to help redraw the lines of the district. And there could be 4 LAUSD parents. That's what the new ask is. And maybe we'll go to the next slide that says that. And there is the possibility that young people could also be on this. So currently they have to be over 18, but there's an encouragement to explore whether 16, 17-year-olds could also be a part of this 14-member commission to redraw the lines. So this would be for future elections. It will tell you Board District 7 changed just a little bit after the last census, but some board districts changed a lot after the last census. And I'm doing this because there was kind of a flip of some of the schools. Some of my colleagues got 50 new schools, 100 new schools. I got 2 new schools and I lost a couple of schools too. So if you're interested, that is another item on the ballot. And I will tell you again, the district, the official position is to educate and inform, not to advocate. But I did want to let folks know this is on there. I personally was supportive in my individual capacity, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that if I can be helpful. So feel free to put questions in the chat or raise your hands if you have questions. Otherwise, we will transition to our Get Out the Vote advocacy, which we can advocate for because it is great to exercise your voice if you have the privilege to do so. I know so many of our students would love to vote. So many people who are in this country who have different backgrounds are not able to vote. And so if you have the ability, we definitely want to encourage you. And I think Charnel's going to help us with this next section here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am excited about this. I have been voting since I'm 18. I get a lot of calls and letters and all kind of things that comes to my house because I regularly vote. And my children, all 6 of my children are voters, as well as my husband. So this is very exciting for me today. Important voting dates so that you know, of course, Election Day is our first Tuesday in November, November 5th this year. We have a little less than 30 days left to vote. You can register to vote online October the 21st, or you can go in and register to vote at your county office, registrar's office. You can also vote on the day of the election, and it will be a provisional vote. We want you to check your registration status if you need to at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. So you can register to vote for the state of California online, and you can check your registration status as well. Vote by mail ballots should be already sent to registered voters. You should be getting them in the next couple of days if you haven't already. If you have not received yours, you can always check your status. And most of us, if you gave your cell phone number, received a text message from the Secretary of State to say that your ballot is on its way. Vote centers will open beginning October the 26th, so you can actually go in and vote in person. And you can find out LA County vote centers at lavote.net. Next slide, please. All right, and then there's ways to voting. So make a plan to vote. How can you vote? You can vote in person. You can vote at a vote center. Those locations, again, is at lavote.net. You can vote by mail. You can take your ballot and you can actually put it in a drop box, or you can actually put it in mail. I have a couple of my own children who live out of state right now going to school, and so they will have their ballots and they'll just drop it in the mail. They must be dropped in those drop boxes or in the mailbox on the day of the election, November 5th, or that ballot will not be counted. Conditional registration, I said a few moments ago that if you want to register on the day of the election or after the 21st, you're considered to be a conditional voter. They go through a bunch of checks on your ballot to make sure that you're eligible to vote. And you can go to, and we'll put this link in the chat so that you have it, so you can learn more information about conditional voting. And regardless of how you plan to vote, we just encourage you here at BD7 and LA Unified to make your voice heard. We just want to make sure that you understand that voting is your right and that you can make your voice heard.
Thanks, Charnel.